Here's white versus the Sicilian, lesson 9, part 3. E4, C5, knight F3, D6, D4, C takes D4, knight takes D4, knight F6, knight C3, G6, bishop E3, bishop G7, F3, knight C6, queen D2, kingside castle, queenside castle, knight takes D4. Black decides to exchange on D4 straight away. Now, if immediately black played bishop E6, then you could try knight takes E6, F takes E6, G3, intending that white's next move would be bishop H3, but this isn't that clear. The move that would annoy your opponent would be king B1 in reply, when black has nothing better than knight takes D4, bishop takes D4, transposing into the main line. Knight takes D4, bishop takes D4. Respect for black's light squared bishop is paramount. Instead, if white played queen takes D4, this puts white's queen in the head of the lion, or here would be dragon's mouth. After which, knight G4, queen D2, knight takes E3, queen takes E3 would be a brilliant exchange for black. He has eliminated white's dark squared bishop, leaving the bishop on G7 without its natural enemy. Note, white wants to exchange his dark squared bishop for the bishop on G7. An exchange for a knight is hardly ever acceptable. So white just played bishop takes D4. Bishop E6, king B1. A useful precaution. It not only safeguards A2, but also removes the white king from potential danger on the C file. As will be seen, vacates the C1 square for the rook. It also has a specific idea in mind. Black's favorite attacking move is queen A5, and that's what would follow after, let's say, G4. Queen A5, when knight D5, queen takes A2 is abysmal for white. So king B1. Queen C7. Now let's say that black instead was to play queen A5. Then knight D5 wins a pawn with queen takes D2, or else black pawns are smashed up because, well, here, we'll just play this out first. Queen takes D2, knight takes E7, check, king H8, rook takes D2. And so now let's say that that after this knight D5, black plays queen D8, blocking the check. Then knight takes F6 check is still possible. Tip that's mentioned here: try to prevent your opponent from playing his favorite moves. Confounded in her intention of going to A5, the black queen has to make do with C7, where at least she clears the way for the rook on F8 to reach a half-open C file. So here we have black moved to queen to C7. Knight D5. At first glance, this looks like a blunder, but the pawn on D5 will be indirectly defended by the white queen. Bishop takes D5. Now, let's say that instead black had played knight takes D5, bishop takes G7, king takes G7, e takes D5, bishop D7, H4. The black king side lacks its defender on G7, so the white attack can just roll forward. Go back to here. Bishop takes d5. E takes d5. White has eliminated the bishop on e6, which means that there is no longer an attack on a2. He has also opened the e-file and created a potential target at e7. Rook f c8. Now, let's say instead that black had played knight takes d5. Then bishop takes g7, which uncovers attack on the knight and wins a piece. And let's say instead rook a c8. Then rook c1 and a6, and black waits until white plays his next move before playing e7 e6, as he hopes that the f3 pawn will then become a target for the rook on f8. g4 e6. Black activates his center in search of counterplay. D takes e6, f takes e6, h4, queen c6, bishop g2, queen c4, rook h e1, e5, bishop g1, rook c d8, f takes e6, h5, g takes h5, g5, knight d5, rook e4, queen c6, and f4. Now this looks dangerous for black in view of the potential attack on the black queen from the bishop on g2.